Craig, thank you so much for driving in today and coming to chat with me about Amazon.
Of course.
So I'd love if you just want to maybe introduce yourself.
Yes. Hi, my name is Craig Pinozzo. I do lead the client services end of our Amazon department, our retail media department. We started about 5 years ago, and with a scrappy, kind of group of people, and really have kind of tweaked a lot, learned a lot, and built out this full-fledged system that we work with today. It's been extremely exciting.
So what types of businesses do you think do really well on Amazon, and what types maybe should invest in other avenues?
Yeah. So, of course, I'm going to say it depends, right? And there's
Naturally.
not really maybe like, a one or two best businesses. The first thing that comes to mind is really a consumable business, right? Because Amazon or businesses, I guess, that are consumables, they really do, I guess, gain a lot from subscribe and save, right? Replenishable inventory, and just there's a lot more, at least higher value to the lifetime value of a customer. And they usually can work that into their margins and maybe spend more on advertising, try to generate a lot more conversation and awareness to their brand. And they might not need to even break even to begin with. They might, they could probably operate at a loss for a product because they know that product's going to bring in a lot of value and return for them in the longevity of it. So consumables are usually kind of a no-brainer. I mean, household items, things like that. Sometimes there's like nice little pockets of Amazon that actually have a lot of customers looking to buy that product, but maybe they just don't have exactly what they're looking for. Maybe Amazon already doesn't offer what they're looking for, maybe with a certain feature. Some things come to mind, or at least one comes to mind with like wine accessories, right? So wine accessories is a really huge category. You can think of like tumblers and...
I have a Vochill. I'm a
exactly.
wine accessory person.
And Vochill is a great example, right? They offer something that is a competitive advantage because they have a certain type of branding to them. They basically meet a need, and the need is, having to keep your wine chill, right, while it's still in the glass, instead of just keeping the bottle chill and then pouring it in the wine glass, and all of a sudden it kind of gets warm. It's a really hot day, and it looks aesthetically pleasing, like really nice and luxurious. So they found a really nice, carved out a little niche for themselves, right? So it depends. If you do offer something that has a great value proposition, almost doesn't matter where it's priced at, right? As long as that is easily translatable to what a shopper would see on Amazon, right? And one of the ways to translate it is, of course, to have your creatives up there and on your listing page, kind of talk about through your bullet points, all that stuff. Yeah, something else to think about is like, there are areas that may do well, like on Amazon, like maybe clothing or apparel, but they have, or shoes is another good example of, they will sell a lot of product, but they have an insanely high return rate, right? Because when you buy products, you're going to buy different sizes. You're going to see which one fits. And with Amazon's return policy, maybe they'll buy 3 products from one seller, and then they're going to return 2 of them, right?
I just saw that for the first time, and I'm sure you noticed it well before. Something that said like a frequently returned product.
Yes.
That was like noted, and so that's definitely curbed some of my purchasing behavior.
And then of course when that just randomly shows up, you're like, well, this is something new that we have to work with now, right? Okay,
changes your whole day.
This completely changed how people are looking at a listing and deciding to make that purchase, right? And if it's on a product or maybe on one of our clients' page, well, the conversion rate just went down a little bit.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, I would imagine.
Yeah. So it's just one of those other things, of course, that you just have to factor in and figure out, okay, well, how can we get around this? Or, it's less how can you get around it, but like how can you get past it, right?
Are there any other, so consumables, said like accessories, and then we, talked about that wine accessories, Vochill aspect. Are there any other, clients that you can think of in those verticals that tend to perform or have performed really well?
When I'm thinking about it, I'm kind of thinking more towards even like B2B. Does really well. So even some of the accessories, or maybe some like tools and stuff.
I wouldn't have thought that.
Home improvement, things like that do very well. There's new tools that are opening up to allow people to market directly to a business owner or somebody that uses Amazon's business side of things or their business marketplace. And it's really exciting because even new things this year, right, is opening up that we can advertise and try to bid aggressively, or at least compete very aggressively to anybody who has a business account with Amazon.
Oh, yeah.
So anything I kind of Also would look at the B2B side, and accessories like maybe just tools, accessories, things like that tend to do well as well. Yep.
Cool. So there's obviously a lot that needs to go into being successful on Amazon once you're set up on Amazon. But before a brand gets to that point, or a manufacturer, what should they really have in place before they make that choice and commitment?
Oh man. Okay, how much time do we have? Like we have
Forever.
We have forever. Okay, so that is a very great question because everybody should be thinking about that, right? And the first word that comes to mind is retail ready. So it's a word that's often used, but in Amazon's world, retail ready basically comes down to, is your listing optimized where it has like strong product title, where it has high quality images and infographics on there that clearly state what the value proposition is or what your competitive advantage is? Do you have inventory to support sales, right? And make sure that you actually are forecasting that out and you have enough inventory. Do you, are you Prime eligible, right? Are you using Amazon systems like Fulfill by Amazon, FBA, right? If you're not using those systems, well, I mean, you could Fulfill by Merchant, FBM. You're not going to show a Prime badge.
Thank you for
right?
spelling out those acronyms for me, by the way. I appreciate that.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, I know that's a different type of language you just talk every single day. It's kind of like, and it flows a little bit. But with the, FBM, Fulfilled by Merchant, I mean, you aren't going to show a Prime badge, So when somebody's looking at the listing, I mean,
that's got to be a huge filter
it's a
criteria.
huge, exactly, right? You can filter for it. And when it has that Prime eligibility or like it shows that badge, it's really like a trust that people have in the product, right? The second it shows Prime, that immediately is just like, there's psychology to it, right? On how people look at it and are like, okay, well, you know what? Whatever kind of risk I'm taking here to buy this product, that's a certain price, maybe it's higher price than what I was going to buy from another person. Well, I'll take that risk here.
Yeah, it's definitely got that the validation from that designation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, there's of course a lot more on the page to make sure you're retail ready with like A+ content, which is all the creatives below the bullet points on the page. And it has like lifestyle images in there, or you can at least put lifestyle images. They're called modules, each little modules and stuff. You can put comparison tables in there, brand story, talk about your brand a little bit more. And they're all just going to be, just more ways to basically introduce yourself to shoppers that have never heard of you before.
Again, as somebody who is rather ignorant to all things Amazon, other than from being a consumer of all things Amazon, I'd love to hear from you, the difference between some of these sponsored products, sponsored brands, sponsored display ads, and what makes sense in different scenarios for different advertisers.
Well, actually, let me. I'll Christopher Nolan this, so I'll start at the end of the
You're gonna
the answer.
this?
Okay, I'm going to incept this. Okay,
Perfect.
So no, thinking about the end. The end is you're going to use all of them, right? Okay. So they're all going to find their way into your type of advertising, or at least you should be using all of them, right?
Amazon.
Your omni-channel, your full funnel strategy, right? Because they each kind of have their own type of strategy, right? And behavior and things like that. So you're going to optimize them separately as well. The one you're going to invest the most in, or that you should invest most in, is sponsored products. That's your listing ads, right? That's the one that shows the pricing, shows the reviews.
Yeah, because again, you're coming up above the organic.
Yes. Yeah, you're coming up above the organic. And actually, just another update this year is instead of having 4 ad spots and 1 organic, they just bumped that organic spot. Now you have 5 ad spots at the top. So.
And I love hearing consumers, because this even just came across my brain, say, well, I skip the sponsored and I go to the organic, but we know that the truth of that, because I say that, and yet there are so many times when I've realized I've clicked on the sponsored, but it meets the need and I'm there, that I buy the sponsored. It just happens. Yeah,
and and even coming into this too, into digital marketing, you think, who's actually clicking the ad? Everybody. You are in the minority of not clicking ads.
That used to be something that we would hear often, especially being on the sales side, is that people would say, well, I don't click the ads. And we're like, you might feel that way, but statistically that is not factually correct.
And by statistically, we have data to show you here. So let's talk about that a little bit more. And so that's, again, it's near impossible to not click an ad on Amazon. I mean, they've got every single piece of real estate on there that's just covered, right? You've got your, so the sponsored products, of course, being at the top of search, that is going to be your workhorse, right? That's going to be your bread and butter. That's you invest a lot in there. And the main reason is, well, of course, the awareness at the top of search. You can have that. The spots on the product page, right? So you think of a product page, you look for a product, and then at the bottom of the bullet points, and actually before the A+ content, you have carousels down there, right? That says products related to, right?
Yeah.
They're all sponsored.
So where do the brands show up?
So, well, the sponsored brand is related to, of course, like there's video advertising, there's headline ads. So when you do a search.
Oh, like the big banner that's
the
got
big
Mrs.
banner.
Myers,
Yes.
natural cleaner. And
Yes, and by the way, that's amazing stuff.
I know.
Okay.
Why do you think that was top of mind? Talking about consumables. I subscribe and save.
Nice. So yeah, absolutely. At the headline at the top of the banner where it shows like a lifestyle image, it shows maybe. You can also get a video up there too. I mean, there's ways that we do that with clients where we show a video that's very prominent and covers more than half the top of the page. The specific ways that you can do that through the back end, through your advertising, to make sure you have video set up and you basically go to the right placements or the placements that you really want to go to. So top of search for a sponsored brand, and then of course the middle is the video that they show as well, and then they have like some at the bottom of the page that looks like a display, but it's sponsored brand and it leads you to their storefront. And Amazon will allow brands to basically create a storefront that essentially looks like a website. It looks like a Shopify site.
I've definitely
really.
seen some really good ones. So that brings up a good question of, I know that we refer to a lot of these systems as being black boxes because they only give us what they'd like to. It's not like we have full access in. So what do the analytics in Amazon help you do, or where is it lacking?
Okay, so where is it lacking? There's
pros, cons.
Yeah, right, pros and cons. So yes, it is a black box, right? There are going to be a lot of things they hold to their chest, and at the end of the day, Amazon considers somebody who purchases on their marketplace their customer, not necessarily the seller's customer.
Yes.
So they will hold a lot to their chest, because data is everything, and the data that they do give you, it's definitely a lot better as we're talking about this now. If we were talking about this like 4 years ago or 3 years ago even, or maybe even last year, the amount of data was so limited that they were offering. Now we have insight into how organic traffic is doing, right? There's something called Search Query Performance Dashboard, which has been one of the most exciting dashboards that came out. And yes, it's exciting because I'm very excited about this.
Believe you.
Like, it is, I spend so much time in there. It is so much fun to kind of navigate and figure out, okay, well, what could we be doing on the advertising side? What's going well, like organically speaking, right? From a conversion rate perspective.
And it's really a search query report, meaning the keywords that people are searching for organic, for paid, and the performance thereof.
Right.
Okay.
It's how it's performing, and then also how it's performing compared to maybe how peers are doing as well. So it's kind of a way to
sounds like
benchmark
Google Ads
a little.
search terms report, but maybe with a little bit more ability of search term against peer.
Right, exactly,
Like
and it's
sure.
including organic data. Yeah, so it definitely is. It was a lot more eye-opening. There's a lot more that we can do with that dashboard. I mean, there's other dashboards that opened up too, which is extremely helpful. There's marketplace product guidance, which will also help you about discover more in your category, see if there's any holes or stuff that you could be missing. Maybe there's keywords that you're missing. Maybe there's competitor ASINs that are gaining market share, right? And you can
and I would
target
think you
competitors.
could almost maybe reverse this a bit too, in terms of are there maybe products that you're not servicing? Would that be would it be a place to mine for business ideas?
Absolutely, yeah. So there are. Yeah, you sound like you researched this a little bit, actually.
No, I'm thinking
like
search terms report, right? You go into the search terms report and you're like, wow, people are really looking for the promo code, so I should probably add a promo code page to my website. Or people are really looking for a floating shelf, and I don't have floating shelves, so maybe that's an R&D area for me to go into.
Right. Yeah. No, that's a perfect example. There's Product Opportunity Explorer, which is going to help you identify, where trends are, right? It also is going to help you discover reviews on certain products. If you're looking into a product niche, then what do the reviews look like? How can I position my product that I'm about to have in my inventory? How can I position that as maybe better than the competition, or it satisfies what these needs are that people are missing out on, or they're putting negative reviews out there for. So there's it's almost endless at this point. There's so much data that's available that you can pull from. And with the Amazon ads too, I mean, got a lot of different opportunities in there. Like I mentioned earlier, is one of my favorites this year is the Amazon Business Placements. And that one just started showing up in accounts. It wasn't really announced maybe publicly immediately by Amazon, but it's just stuff that they start to kind of roll out slowly.
What is it?
So that is, so within the campaign manager, you have basically, we talked about the top of search, right? Like with listing ads and sponsored brand, and then you have the middle, or like the rest of search is what it's called. And then you have just product page placements, right? So you have those 3 different main placements. You also have off Amazon, and there's other placements there too, but your 3 main ones are going to be your top of search, rest of search, and then product pages. Well, there's also an additional placement, which is going to be the top of search for anybody who logs in with a like business.com or business.amazon.com.
Okay.
Or Amazon. I forget exactly the URL there, but like if you have a credit card that's through some business, or maybe you're a buyer through a certain business, you're going to buy especially even considering our agency, right, buying stuff for the office, they probably log into an Amazon business account. Well, we can bid up specifically to show for that business.
A utility for B2B.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's been really great. And I mean, even anybody who's not technically B2B, there's,
if you want that business consumer, I guess.
Right.
We did sponsored products, sponsored brands, and then the other one was sponsored display ads. And so, where, why, when, how.
Yeah. So sponsored display is going to be kind of the billboards that you see off to the side, right? If we're familiar with maybe Google Ads, right, and their display advertising, it's very similar to how it looks and feels.
It's a push medium.
Yes, right. So it's or like it's a reminder, right? Hey, we're still here. Hey, you were just looking at our product page, because you could do remarketing with it. Yeah, it's a very popular form of remarketing. It uses audience targeting, right? Because an audience could be, well, people that viewed my page, right? Like, let's go ahead and continue to show there. So that's, of course, going to be your retargeting bit. And then you've got audiences you could target that are category specific. So maybe somebody who's browsed in a certain category. So then at that point, you're prospecting, right? So that's kind of comes down to, well, those are people that might not necessarily be looking for that product in that moment,
but there's
right?
intent there.
But there's a little bit of intent either there in that moment, or maybe they showed it before, and you could capture some of that, right?
That's cool. Yeah, a little bit more of an intent-based prospect or display advertising.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, cool is one word to explain it. I would probably say it's supplemental.
Right.
It's really
it's a tertiary.
Yes, totally.
It's helpful. You should use it, but like you said, it's not your workhorse. That's your sponsored products.
Right, exactly. I mean, you think about sponsored products. I mean, you could be spending anywhere from, or maybe you should be spending anywhere from like 75% to 85% of your budget on that, right? And then another 10% to 15% on sponsored brands, right? And then you've got 5% left over, or 5 or 10%, right? I didn't do the math in my head. I'm probably at 125% now, but you'll figure it out.
I feel like that my reaction to sponsored display ads is kind of typical for people who are running things themselves, because it does seem so cool to have all of this demographic information and category and interest to target your advertising. But we fundamentally know that it doesn't convert at the same rate, and it doesn't have the same, I'm going to say ROI, which I know that we're going to talk about different KPI systems. But yeah, so that's interesting, because I do know that in Google Ads, we see that all the time, where people kind of get sucked into the idea of display advertising and end up spending a lot of their budget there rather than having it be kind of a tertiary.
That's absolutely it, right? And it's talked about one of the most, because it is something where you either spend an arm and a leg, or you spend virtually nothing there, right? So there's a lot of money that it can make agencies and make Amazon, right? But not make the seller. So there's just
you have to watch out.
It's very it's kind of tricky, and we run it. We run it for, I can almost say, every single person, right, is going to be running sponsored display, unless there's some sort of limitation there, but
not as a primary.
It's not as a primary, right? Yeah, and it's not really one of those that you're going to invest so much in, unless it is proving to be a good driving, factor of like sales and sales growth.
Which we should talk about that. How do you know? What are the KPIs for determining?
Like top tier transitioning. That was fantastic. That was great. Absolutely. So KPI, I mean, without a doubt, ACOS, right? ACOS, and I would also
You're gonna
lump
have to
in.
break that down for me.
Okay, ACOS, right? ACOS. So advertised cost of sale.
Okay, so what we would refer to as ROAS.
Yes, right. So, and that's also another metric that shows on Amazon as well. But Amazon, has been looking at ACOS for a long time. It's a metric that they've been using for a long time. They're more recently using ROAS, I guess, return on ad spend. And then, but when we consider ACOS, so if you have like a 10% ACOS, right, that means that you had to spend $10 to get a $100 sale, right? And that would also be, I guess, the reverse of that. It would be a 10x ROAS or something, or 10 ROAS. Now, ACOS.
I don't do math in public, so I'm not going to take that bait.
That's why I did 10, actually. That was very easy. So ACOS, but then also tacos, right?
Okay.
Total ACOS.
I've been hearing a lot about tacos. And I'm going to let
the
you
metric,
fill the void.
right? The metric you're talking about, right? Not the food.
Yes,
but okay.
Yesterday was Taco Tuesday. But.
It was Taco Tuesday, which is a great way to talk about tacos.
Okay.
And, it would be a good day to talk about it. But, tacos total advertising cost of sale. So that's when you're looking at, okay, well, what's your advertising cost, right? You spent $1,000 and you got, let's say you got $4,000 in.
Keep these numbers round.
I'm trying very hard. I'm walking a line here because I know if I go one number off, I'm not
Sure.
going to be able to math it out.
So you spend $1,000 and then.
Let's say you get $4,000 in ad sales, right? So somebody clicked an ad, they made a purchase, and you got $4,000 from that out of this $1,000 being spent. That's a what is that, 4 ROAS, right? Or is that a 3 ROAS? I guess. So we're gonna cut that one out because we're gonna pretend I actually know how to do that math.
We've got calculators with.
So, but then you get $10,000 in total sales, right? So total sales is going to be including your organic and including your ads. And the reason why you'd want to be looking
There's
at
an effect.
there's a lasting effect, right? Well, one of the things, if you want to get technical, we can talk about attribution windows and stuff, right? So Amazon has a 7-day attribution window. Google has a 30-day attribution window. So, when you look at maybe other places, how they attribute a sale, it's going to be collected in the advertising a lot more liberally, I guess, with like a Google platform or something else. Whereas on Amazon, it's more likely that you're going to lose that attribution. So let's just say, of course, somebody clicked an ad today, and then next week Friday, because what happens with Amazon is what you click ads and then you leave it in your cart, and it basically just sits in your cart for forever sometimes. I think there was
Like all my Prime Day stuff.
Absolutely, yes, absolutely. So and then you come back to it. Let's say you purchase that on Friday, which in some cases, I think there were some studies done where it takes up to 28 days to make an average purchase on Amazon.
You would lose that in the ROAS model.
You lose it. It would not show. So ACOS would show you just spent money and you got no sales out of it.
Right.
But that would show up as an organic sale.
Right.
So, right.
Because they cross channels out of the attribution window, it's counted in tacos.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. So it's counted in tacos.
Well, and that kind of makes sense because these things don't operate in silos.
Right.
Your advertising is helping your organic's helping your advertising, and just because it falls out of a short attribution window.
Yeah, and there's that. And then also when you consider how organic is how you rank organically, I guess, and how it's measured by sales velocity, right? So if you have to spend more, let's say you have to spend 2 times more to only get 1.5 times more in sales, well, that 1.5 times more in sales is also giving you a little bit of a bump, organically speaking, too, because you're making more sales.
Okay.
So despite your ACOS being worse, because you just had to spend double to get 1.5 more, so your ACOS technically doesn't look as great, your organic picked up a little bit more, and your tacos might have not changed at all or even is better, right? So there's just other factors to consider to that. Yeah. Yeah,
and I've certainly been hearing about tacos as a better model across other platforms as well.
Yeah, it's looking at the whole picture, right? You either can, I go as far as to say, and I've heard other people reference this too, that ACOS is a vanity metric. It makes you feel good, if you look at it and you see, okay, well, great, I have a 10% ACOS, or maybe I have a 5 ROAS or something, right? That feels good, and you feel like you're getting a lot of profit. But what is the actual story at the end of the day? What's your actual profit from that?
This actually is pertinent because I help oversee some of Logical Position's own digital marketing efforts, and so right now we're talking about our attribution systems and weighting and cross-channel, kind of pollination, and so I'm gonna have to set up a meeting with Cam Marcella and talk more about tacos and maybe implementing that into our own, marketing and reporting as well.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's because we're learning a lot about advertising and how it kind of affects things down the road. And again, if you are just looking at that one metric, you're really in a vacuum, right? And you're in that silo, just kind of wondering, well, where's my growth, right?
Well, and you're also
why am I
having
not?
to then kind of compare it cross-channel, and it's not apples to apples. I find.
Yeah,
So.
absolutely. Yeah, it's totally different when you're comparing cross channels. Absolutely.
Well,
Yeah.
Craig, thanks so much for chatting with me about Amazon. I super appreciate you coming in.
Thanks for having me. This was fantastic. I love talking about this.
I'm a fiber.
Thank you.